بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد. Surah Al-An'am, verse number 125. فَمَنْ يُرِدِ اللَّهُ أَنْ يَهْدِيَهُ يَشْرَحْ صَدْرَهُ لِلْإِسْلَامِ وَمَنْ يُرِدْ أَنْ يُضِلَّهُ يَجْعَلْ صَدْرَهُ ضَيِّقًا حَرَجًا كَأَنَّمَا يَصَّعَّدُ فِي السَّمَاءِ
وتلك الأمثال نضربها للناس وما يعقلها إلا العالمون.
This verse is giving a comparison between someone who is guided by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and one who is not. The parable or the example is a very vivid one, a very clear one. When Allah wants to guide someone, فَمَنْ يُرِدِ اللَّهُ أَنْ يَهْدِيَهُ, when Allah wants to guide someone, what does He do? Before we talk about that, when does Allah want to guide someone and who does Allah want to guide? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will guide anyone who approaches Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through the means of guidance. The asbab, the means to be guided, are mentioned throughout the whole Quran. It's a book of guidance. Anyone who approaches Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with those means will get guidance. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will want to guide them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not distinguish between one type of person and another based on their ethnicity or background or even their knowledge. Obviously, irrespective of their social or financial status, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not look at those things. So when Allah decides to guide someone, يَشْرَحْ صَدْرَهُ لِلْإِسْلَامِ. Sharaha means to open up. The literal meaning of sharaha is actually to split something open, like to take a piece of flesh and to open it. Take a knife and split it open. That's why the knowledge of anatomy in Arabic is called ilm al-tashrih. So it's about opening up those body parts. Here, sharaha is to open, to expand. Yashrah sadrahu. What does He expand? He expands His chest. Now, focus on the chest. It doesn't say sharaha qalbahu. The word sharh is used for sadr, for chest, because it is our chest that has the ability to physically expand and contract. When we inhale, the entire rib cage is expanding. When we exhale, it's contracting. So imagine someone being able to breathe easily. And this is an important part of this example here. So yashrah sadrahu, all of a sudden it becomes easy to breathe. In the same way, Islam becomes easy for them to understand. The things that were inhibiting them or confusing them or creating misgivings, doubts, suspicions, all of a sudden those things begin to dissipate and fade away. And just like a person steps out into the fresh air and they're healthy, they're able to pull in that oxygen into their lungs, it feels so good, that's what Islam begins to feel like. Every time you step into Islam, it's like you're filled with another fresh blast of air or another big breath that you've taken that energizes you and it increases your vitality. So comfort, ease, and energy and strength, all of this comes with breathing easy. وَمَنْ يُرِدْ أَنْ يُضِلَّهُ. When Allah decides to lead someone away from Him, who is Allah going to lead away? Well, a person who does not approach Allah through the means of guidance that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to mankind, does not avail of those opportunities. In fact, a person who rejects the opportunities to be guided, eventually Allah will say, you know what, I don't want you to be guided anymore. These are people who have repeatedly rejected the guidance. They might have the means of guidance available to them, but they're not using them in the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has ordained. And when an opportunity comes for them to actually get close to Allah, instead of moving close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they use that opportunity for something else. Even if that opportunity happens to be the Quran itself. In the case of some people, they have access to the Quran, they read the Quran, but it actually takes them further away from Allah because they're not approaching it with the intention of being guided. They might be approaching it with a set of objections. They might be approaching it with a set of trying to make the Quran fit into their mindset, or make the Quran satisfy their particular view. But the Quran is not for that. That's why Allah SWT says that يُضِلُّ بِهِ كَثِيرٌ وَيَهْدِي بِهِ كَثِيرًا. Through this book, Allah SWT may lead many people away from Him because they're approaching it with the wrong direction, the wrong approach. But many others will get guided through this Quran. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decides to take someone away from Him, keep someone away from Him, may Allah forbid for that ever happening to us. يَجْعَلْ صَدْرَهُ ضَيِّقًا حَرَجًا. He makes his chest tight. So constricted. ضَيِّق, tight. حَرَجًا, uncomfortable. Haraj is discomfort, inconvenience, even pain. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes their chest tight, constricted, and painful. So the example of someone who's having difficulty in breathing. Anyone who has asthma knows exactly what I'm talking about. You have all the oxygen in the world around you, you just can't seem to pull it in. In fact, the more you breathe, the more constricted your chest becomes. It becomes painful. And then you're gasping for breath. But while you're gasping for breath, you're not able to take in the oxygen that you need. So the chest becomes constricted and it becomes painful. This is the example of somebody shifting away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why is that? Because the world starts getting more and more complicated. It gets more and more difficult to understand. A person is unable to figure out their own problems. They're unable to figure out the problems of others. They're unable to find solutions to their problems and the solutions to others. The world seems like a very dismal place all of a sudden. It becomes difficult to find your place in that world. It becomes difficult to find meaning in this. So imagine how difficult it must be spending a person's entire life not knowing what they were here for. Now the next part of this verse is one of the, you can say, it's one of those places where the Quran highlights wonders that exist within nature. Some people might refer to it as scientific miracles in the Quran. كَأَنَّمَا يَصَعَّدُ فِي السَّمَاءِ. That person's heart, or that person's chest rather, is getting constricted, tight, painful, as if they are trying to ascend the levels of the sky. Now, the traditional tafsirs explain this, that just like it would be very difficult for someone to try to ascend into the sky, and if somebody were forced to do so, that go and ascend in the sky, in other words, levitate and start flying upwards on your own, how that would make a person very uncomfortable. Just like that, this person becomes uncomfortable. With what we know today about altitude and atmospheric pressure and what happens to oxygen as you go up, it gives us another perspective also of this verse. And that is that as a person ascends into higher altitudes, atmospheric pressure drops, and that is related to the molecules of air becoming more and more spaced out. So the pressure decreasing means the molecules are spaced out. The proportion of oxygen in those molecules remains the same, but the molecules themselves are more spaced out, therefore resulting in a lack of oxygen in higher altitudes. What happens to a person as they're going up? if they don't have a controlled environment or a supply of oxygen, as this person ascends upwards, because they're not able to access that oxygen, their chest is going to become constricted and tight and painful, and they will be struggling to find air. Same thing happens to a mountain climber who goes to the extreme heights. They need to have a supply of oxygen with them because they're not able to get the oxygen they need up there. So similar thing would happen to that person. So the example of hidayat, the example of finding one's way in deen, is like being able to breathe easy. It just feels good. It feels normal. It feels natural. It revitalizes you. And the example of moving away from deen, it's like running out of oxygen. Imagine going up in an airplane, in a helicopter, and not having a controlled oxygen supply while you are going up. Imagine how terrible that would be, and what would happen to the lungs in that scenario. So through this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala explains the process of hidayat and also the process of going astray. A person will never find themselves at true ease while they're moving away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There will always be discomfort in that. And a person will always find ease and comfort as they move towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah Azza wa Jal expand our chests for Islam and for His guidance, and enable us to continuously move closer to Him. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keep us from going astray and ever moving away from Him. هذا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين.